Well, I mean, let's start this. I'm going to go ahead and hit record now. Let's go ahead and if you guys can introduce yourselves, kind of who you are, give us your your social media titles so people can follow you offline when when the conversation's over, and then we'll go from there. So we'll start with you, Eisen, and then Kaylin just hop right in once he finishes up.
All right, man. Yeah, appreciate it. My name is Eisen Quaid. You can see my handle up there, Eisen Quaid. Most of my friends know me as Quaid. Like I said before, I'm a father of one little very rambunctious 3-year-old boy, soon to be 4 in a few weeks now. I run a blog at Pancakes Insider with my wife. So pancakesinsider.com. You can follow us there. We talk about everything from marriage to entrepreneurship to food, family, just the journey of life together. You know, something that maybe the kids one day will be able to look back on and say, hey, our parents really were as crazy as we thought they were, even back in the day. So, and then also I run an essential services business brokerage site at iwondermanagement.com, where we provide the services that everybody needs just to live their lives and keep their businesses going. Everything from telecommunications to energy services, which is our 2 marquee products, and then other communications and television services. So, yeah, that's what we do. We just live life. We're out here in Austin, Texas, and having a good time, man.
Good deal. Well, I'm Kaylin Laws. And there's my handles up there. Senor Wapo 713 is my Twitter and my Instagram. I am soon to be dead here any day now, literally any day. We'll be 40 weeks on Monday, and so we're just anticipating the arrival of our daughter, our first child. So I'm the newbie, the rookie in the room, and I might be real quiet on some of these things because I have yet to experience some of the joys of fatherhood, but I really look forward to it. I operate a blog called SeniorWapo713.com. I'm located in Houston. It's more about men's lifestyle and style blog. I also am the men's style editor for Cold Hard Fast Quarterly, which is an online magazine, as well as coldhardfast.com, which is another blog, and I'm also a contributor to an additional blog called marriedandyoung.com. One of the original writers there. We talk about marriage aspects and tips and tools from being young people that are married. I've been married almost 7 years, and so I have a little skin in the game. And full time, I am I'm a faculty member professor at Texas Southern University here in Houston, Texas, teaching political science, public policy, public administration. So it's a great time for my field. A lot of things going on that I'm sure we could touch on today, politically and within public policy and government, and how it affects our perspectives as dads. So I'm super excited, man. On the side, I also do a lot of fashion styling. I have a couple clients across the country the way I style and do all that kind of thing. So I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, man. I do a lot of different things. My granddad really told me to have one iron in the fire. I mean, more than one iron in the fire. I took it literally. So we're just trying to live life here in Houston, man. Texas Connect, ATX. What's up?
Yeah. So my name is Benjamin Floyd. I am the founder and I guess kind of mind behind the Urban Dads, which is fatherhood from an urban perspective. My goal kind of starting the blog, once I had my first son, I realized that it was hard to find vocal Black men, kind of letting people know, here's what I did, here's how I got through the situation, whether they were single dads or whether they kind of had a rocky start to fatherhood in the beginning, or whether they were just kind of, they hit the ground running and it was kind of smooth sailing for them. And that's kind of what me started at. And then my wife runs naturalhairrules.com, and she's kind of been being pushed behind me to kind of get me really going and moving. And I reached out to you guys because I knew from an accountability perspective, if I reached out and I said, hey, I want to do this, I knew because I care about relationships, I would have to make sure that I didn't drop the ball and got one up no matter what, because it's time for people to know that, there are level-headed, active, and functional Black dads out here. So I kind of want to, I guess we can dive right into it, kind of, talk about what's happened this week, kind of what's your perspective on it, and how it's affected you. I think for me, we can start with, I know it's kind of be a touchy subject, but, Ahmed, the young kid in Dallas, Texas, that in Irvine, Texas, he built a clock. He's an engineering student, and he took the clock to school. The school mistakenly thought the clock was a device that would injure other children, and from there it kind of went. It kind of went downhill from there. Where he was arrested, he was in pain. His parents weren't called, and for me, personally, it was really kind of scary because I just couldn't imagine. Like, what if my son was detained for several hours and I didn't know it? I mean, imagine being at work and you're just going through your day to day. You're not even thinking to yourself, "Oh, my son right now is being interrogated by 5 different police. Why, I can't be there. I can't help him because one of the first things that you're taught as a father is your job to protect. That situation, you can't protect what you don't know what's going on. So I'd like to hear what you guys thought about it and maybe how you might have handled the situation.
Well, I'll jump in. We spoke about this at length. I teach American government. One of the courses I teach is American government, and so we talk about the right to due process of law, and from that perspective, and as a father, as even though my daughter isn't born yet, I still consider myself a father. I think that's one of the things that they don't talk about is that instinct that really comes as soon as you know you're going to be a father. That I know it'll grow and get stronger. So I consider myself a father right now, and as such, man, I don't think I would have handled it too well. My son's rights. I read reports saying that he was detained for up to as long as 4 or 5 hours without his parents knowing. Getting questioned and by 4 or 5 different police officers. And the fatherhood instinct to protect your child, and to really be a part of what they have going on, I think is, you can't articulate it. You can only have it. And I don't think that, honestly, I would try to take civil action against the district for that, because from my understanding of due process, that wasn't fully given because he was a minor detained. Now I do know that you can detain him and talk to him for a little bit, but 4 or 5 hours. I'm not an attorney, but that just seemed a bit excessive, man, to me. And I don't think the district handled it right. I do, as a former teacher, I do understand the concern that the teacher may have had after I saw the video, after I saw the device, and raising the concern and going to the proper channels to get it, looked at. But once it got to the principal and they escalated it and went to it was excessive to me when the student had a history of being an inventor, of being an inquisitive young man, that had invented things before. It was just way too excessive to me and got blown way out of proportion. And now this young man could be potentially scarred. And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible the way they handled it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's kind of one of those double-edged swords things where so there's been stuff that's happened in schools lately over the last few years. It seems like, unfortunately, it's one of those things that's only going to get worse before it gets better until we actually get some true reform in our society and maybe shift the way our gun culture is a little bit and our violence culture in general. But yeah, they totally messed up the way they handle that. And I don't know if that's necessarily by design or just by a few bad apples, because so if you're in the education system and you see something that looks suspicious, and the protocol is, better err on the side of caution. So if you see something that doesn't look like, escalate it, ask somebody, bring somebody else in your boat, get somebody else's opinion. So the teacher probably did what the teacher was supposed to do. But I think Kaylin's absolutely right. By the time it gets to the principal's level, what happens at that point? Do we have background on the student? This is where the student-teacher relationship comes into play. How well do we know, the individuals as kids that are actually showing up here and what they're interested in? But it clearly got out of line and out of hand really fast. And the sad thing is it's unfortunate, but it wasn't surprising.
Right there. So not only to me was it not surprising, I think there were certain kind of, to me, common sense steps that didn't happen. And it kind of made me rethink how they handle, their bomb policy, if you would, because if for some reason they did really think that this device was going to harm children, why wasn't the school evacuated? And why didn't they bring in the specialists that handle devices? The fact that those two steps weren't taken, to me, not trying to, because I don't know them. I don't know the faculty, the staff. I wasn't there. But to me, that it looks suspicious. It looks like that they automatically went to the worst case scenario for whatever reason, and let it be fear or let it just be lack of having a plan in place. They didn't follow steps that would have protected all the children in the school if for some reason it really was a bomb. And to me, that was the sign that kind of made me say, well, let me step back and look at this. You detained them. You didn't evacuate the school. The police didn't even bring in bomb control. So that tells me that there was an underlying theme of his name and his religion and where we're currently at in our society that made them jump the gun without actually going through any proper steps.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was one of the stances that one of my students pointed out yesterday during one of our discussions, is that, why wasn't, if there was really a threat, why weren't the students evacuated? So that's something that my students even picked up yesterday. And it begs to me, man, with everything that's going on a broader scale, as a new father, I come from, we're urban dads, and I live in an urban environment, teaching in urban school. Have taught in urban schools my whole career.
Yeah.
But I'm a suburban kid. I was raised in the suburbs, man. And so those suburban hometown good old boy values are what I was raised. And so the way law enforcement is being portrayed, albeit not fully accurately, I will admit that, but the things that are happening, I was taught to, when you're in the mall or when you're at hanging out at the game or whatever, and you get lost, separated from your parents, you're told to go find a policeman. You're told to go find the cop because they were the ones that were trusted and things of that nature. And now, so it was instilled into me that these guys are great and they're good and they have the best interest at heart for you, etc. And now I find it hard pressed to figure out how can I try to teach my daughter as she grows the same thing, based upon what she's seen, what she will be able to see. We know that these kinds of things, they're not, they are germane to the minorities' experience in our culture and have been so for a number of years now. And so I'm confused. I'm baffled, man. I even put a post on Facebook a few months ago asking a bunch of fathers, like, man, look, how am I supposed to teach my kid, my daughter, my son? I pray I have one. That to respect the law when everything that you're seeing is the law is not respecting the people, And so I'm trying to figure it out, because I remember the conversations I had with my mom and my dad. Like, you grow up, you want to be a police officer because you see the pictures of them, walking, getting the dog out of or getting the cat out of the tree and all of that wholesome stuff. So I'm curious, man. I really am, because of images and things like we've seen with this little brother Mohammed. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it kind of goes to the young man in California that was jaywalking. Here's a kid that's jaywalking. Now, before of course, the first thing is, well, why was he jaywalking? Right? Let's the cops. So let's get that out the way now. I'm pretty sure that's the kind of first thing that people think about. But as a black dad, as an urban dad, all I saw in the video was a young man that was scared for his life that literally balled up in the fetal position, and you're striking him in the head with a baton. I mean, it's hard for me to know that my son is going to be safe if he makes we're talking jaywalking, a minor mistake, and gets and to be corrected and to get correction correctly. Or it's also hard for me to know that my son will be deemed as a threat, regardless whether he's involved in the situation, if he's the right person, or if he was even there. And it's scary and saddening to know that there are, not all, but there are some officers out there that are just trained in this way. And I try my best because I've got, friends and family that are in law enforcement. So we see it from both sides, right? And by all means, don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-police. I'm not one of those, I'm not far in either direction. I just think that the state that the relationship is between African American males and law enforcement is really at an imbalance. And there are situations happen on both sides that are causing this kind of push and pull that's creating a very volatile situation that makes it more dangerous for our children.
I have a lot of mixed feelings on the subject. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so number one, so this conversation kind of answers, so we had a user on here or a viewer that was looking to roll in KS7 and asked a question very early on in the conversation. And it was like, why segregate specifically to black dads and not all dads? And the short answer is because not all dads have to deal with this hurdle of race relations as related to authority in the country, where the authority has been, in the country. Kaylin, you went away. I can't see. Can you see him, Ben?
Nah, we lost him. He should be back.
Okay.
He just went low.
But yeah, he poses a really good question as far as what do we teach our kids, and why I struggle with it is because we're talking about the feeling of not being safe.
Yeah.
So honestly speaking, we're safer today with regards to our relationship with law enforcement than we were 10, 15, 20, or 100 years ago in this country, right?
Yeah, we've come an extremely long way.
Yeah, we've come a long way. We got a long way to go, but I really only think the feeling of unsafety is there just because now we have this crazy thing called social media, and everybody's armed with a video camera. So now we're just actually getting to see what we have known has been happening for years, but now it's just at the forefront because people have video cameras and we can see it. So we can bear witness to it and we actually show the world, and some other people can decide whether or not they truly give a shit or go about their life and just act like they give a shit, or they really don't, but for us as fathers, for some of us, it can be a life or death issue.
Yeah.
So at what point do we feel that the life or death issue is so serious that we break that innocence that our kids carry into the world with them, right?
Honestly, I think of a blog post I read by I think it was My Brown Baby, or I think that's her blog. And I think the blog post was it was along the lines. Her child was 2, I think. I think it was her. Anyways, the blog post I read, the child was 2. He was a young little boy. He was African American, and lady in the grocery store was like, "Oh, he's such a cute little thug." And it's kind of like, why on earth would you even, incorporate a thug and a toddler together? Like, where have we, where in society did we move so far in whatever direction that's even, all right, Kaylin's coming back on, that comes in somebody's mind. And kind of going what you're saying as far as at what point do we kind of have to look at breaking like our son's innocence and letting them know that, hey, there are bad people in the world that are not going to like you just because you're black. I want to say, honestly, at the age of 6, I mean, I feel like
that's just the magic number.
I don't, I mean, the first time that I dealt with like real racism was probably in high school, right? But it seems to be that people, I don't know. And it's like, and I guess my fear is I don't want to break their innocence and have them feel like that they are against anybody else at the same token, right? But then you run the risk of, if you don't kind of let them know what is going on in the world, of them putting themselves mistakenly in a situation that could get themselves hurt, because then they are assuming that they're doing the right thing, or that they have all the same rights and privileges, which legally they do. It's just, let's be honest, not everybody likes for minorities to express themselves with the same rights and privileges. Okay, we lost you a little bit,
No, I was on. I could hear everything. Cool. I had a phone call that interrupted the signal, and I had to figure out how to get back on. But I'm good. I heard everything though, and I would totally agree with Isom. And let's put it out there. We're a million times safer than look. I don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about for all intents and purposes being.
Yeah, there's nobody in my front yard right now.
No, burning crosses and stuff. No,
we're a million times safer, and I agree with that. But
but on the flip side, as you gentlemen stated, if I could add to it, it still exists. I challenge someone that's not a minority to walk a day in a minority's shoes, to really understand the nuances and the things that we have to deal with. And so teaching our children how to navigate in a world, I saw a comment from the same brother that said, if we teach race, then it becomes an issue. And I get the logic behind that. But even if we don't teach race, the world teaches race.
Yeah.
And so we have to teach them how to respond to that doctrine.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it exists. Superiority exists. That's just human nature. We have that kind of predilection. And so we have to arm our children with the knowledge and the understanding and the wherewithal and the resolve to really be able to deal with that stuff, man, because it exists. It is what it is. You can relate. I'm a larger guy. Ben, you're large. I'm 6'4", 225 pounds. I some places I walk and I have a beard. In some places I walk, I'm the 6'4" black guy, the big black guy. And I've been this size since I was 14 years old. And so, I know what it's like to intimidate law enforcement because I'm tall and I'm a little bigger. I know what it's like to intimidate teachers, for that matter, and professors and even coaches and authority figures, period.
I would even correct you to say to accidentally intimidate.
Right. Thank you. No, I'm not. Just
just showed up on the block.
I just walk it, bro. Like I walked in the class, you know, and I get the, you know, and so it's one of those things, man, and you know, it's one of those things that so to teach that certain things don't exist, I think is a farce because because our eyes teach it. You know, I have a 9-year-old niece who's at an all-black school, but she asked me a couple months ago, so why are people's skin? Why is it that people's skin is different? So she doesn't see race. You know what I mean? There are cultural differences that we have within our. Again, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up around mostly non-blacks. It is what it is. So but I'm 100% in a black family from Mississippi. Like you can't get more southern and stereotypically black than the family that I grew up in. And so there are cultural differences that we have. There are cultural norms that non-blacks have, you know, and then blacks have. And so there are these kinds of things that we have to respond to in order to really prepare them for the world. So to say that something doesn't exist, I think isn't. I get what a lot of people are trying to say when they say that. You don't want to make it problematic, and I agree. But you can't abandon it.
And I think kind of that's not wise. And I can appreciate for dads out there like Roland that are teaching his kids the right way. That hey, if you know, there's race shouldn't matter on how you view somebody. It should be their character and the content of who they are. I applaud that, but you know, unfortunately, there's you know, like we've seen, and you know, I think a lot of it has to do with Facebook now. You know, that we're able to see more of what people are sharing. So you know, you're seeing kids dress up, you know, as the KKK for Halloween, and it's like, why would you even think that's okay? You know, you're seeing, you know, kids, you know, like for me, one of the biggest issues I have is all the hood fights videos online. Why isn't it that we're not, you know, both of those scenarios to me are the issue of the problem, right? So as long as our community is allowing these fights and these videos to happen, which we can't control everything, but as long as we're supporting it and sharing it and thinking it's funny, it then at the same token then supports the kind of notion that that's the way black people are if that's what they're seeing in the media, right? But then, and I'm going completely off topic now, so let me get back on track. So going back to what Quay was saying is at what age, you know, do you think you kind of have to break their innocence and do it? I mean, and to go with what Roland said, as far as, you know, you don't really want to teach them race, and kind of like to piggyback what you said, Caleb, we don't want it. And I think that's exactly what I was saying. We don't want to teach our kids that they have to go through these situations. If you ask any, you know, minority dad, I don't want to have to tell you, hey, look, I understand that when your friend, you know, Tommy got pulled over, he went, you know, left and right and told the cop to go you know where and all that. But if you get pulled over, you just can't do that. Plain and simple. And, you know, and here's why. I don't want to have to teach my kid, hey, when you walk into a building, make sure that, you know, people can see your hands. You know, it's a lot of little stuff that you have to kind of think about, that you have to kind of teach your child because of how society views them, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, I'm just lucky that I haven't had to have that conversation with them yet. You know, at 3, and from my perspective, I put that conversation on reserve, you know, knowing that it could happen at any given moment. But luckily it hasn't happened yet. And maybe that will be a reactionary conversation rather than a proactive conversation. I don't know yet. You know, I'm still enjoying his youth, his innocence, his time now. And the fact that today he gets along with everybody, right? So love is easily duplicated. You know, hate definitely has to be taught, and he doesn't have anybody around him teaching that, you know, right now. So it hasn't had to be a conversation yet, but but it could be, but so funny enough, I know I have, my wife has a coworker who is a grown man. He's in his 20s. He's African American. His parents are from West Indian descent, and now they live here. They've lived here for a long time. He's lived here in the United States, his whole life. But so from a Black standpoint, a lot of Black people wouldn't consider this individual Black. I mean, he doesn't know who Luther Vandross is. He's a grown Black man. He does not know who Luther Vandross is. He has a very nice white fiance, but that's a non-issue. It's just like you were saying before, Kaylin, that he's been acclimated to a different culture his whole life. Does that make him any less Black? I don't know, but it does not seem like his parents have ever had to have these conversations with them, and I don't know. I don't know if that makes him or his parents more lucky, less lucky, more detached, not as attached. I'm not sure, and I don't know that even if my son gets to the age of 18 and he hasn't been faced with any of these life and death safety issues or been specifically excluded from something just based on the color of his skin, and he can't understand that, and I don't have to have that conversation with him. I don't know. Do I still need to have that conversation at some level? I don't know what that is.
Right.
Like, I'm with you. Like, I'm confused in that arena,
I think, I guess we are at a place when it comes to that subject where our kids, our kids are toddlers. So at our age, our kids just see kids, right? So we haven't really kind of had to tackle any of those issues, but as black dads, it is something that in the back of our mind, we think about, And one day, the other day I was looking at my son and I thought, one day somebody's gonna look at my child and think, oh, here comes the little black boy, or here comes trouble. Not because, he's gonna be trouble, but just because of what society has told this person on how Black youth are. Now, I guess at what point do we, have to break that that innocence? Part of me says the sooner the better, so they're protected and they are able to take care of themselves. But the father in me, I never want to break that innocence of my child. I don't want my child to have to think or worry about that kind of stuff. But at the same token, I don't want them to not be prepared if they ever get put into a situation and not understand why somebody is saying a certain thing to them. Because we were all in Texas, so we know it's gonna happen. Let's just be honest. It's gonna happen. It might not happen to our face. It might not be open. It might not just be, to the extreme. But eventually, it happens. We just have to, find a way to prepare them to handle it, but not reciprocate the same hate. I think that's what's important. I think when the children don't know how to handle it and they just use the anger and they attack back, I think that's when it gets dangerous.
Yeah, and that's not specific to race relations, right? That's just in learning how to deal with the world in general and stuff that's going to come their way from all different sorts of directions, not just the race direction. Teaching our kids how to deal with setbacks and all of their emotions that they're going to face and all that definitely plays into it, because a kid that's not acclimated to how to deal with their emotions can easily lash out, and they do, in a lot of different ways. Look at all the rage of violence crimes that we've seen so far, at least on the mass scale, our mass shootings, those aren't committed by usually minorities, right? Those are other kids with
like a social minority.
No, racial minority. Yeah, it's a social minority, definitely. But
Definitely,
they have
but
their own
they have their own
expressive issues
expressive issues
themselves, and I'm hearing an echo on myself.
themselves. I'm hearing
Do
the
y'all hear
echo on
that?
myself. Do y'all hear that?
Echo.
Yo, testing.
Hello.
Okay.
Testing.
All right, it's gone.
We good?
Yeah, we good.
Well, now that we kind of got to that, the one thing I kind of want to talk about is kind of hip hop, right? So before you became a dad, we listened to everything, Tupac, Easy, all the way to Lecrae. I mean, you name it, I listened to it. But now, as a dad, when I listen to hip hop now, it's like it's changed. It's like I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of certain things. It's kind of hard for me to kind of just sit there and keep listening to because I'm like, man, this is. I get the club songs. I get the radio spins. I understand there's a business behind hip hop, but I think there's a responsibility too that is just being completely neglected. So now that you're a father, how does hip hop sound to you?
That's a good question.
That's a great question, and if I may just go ahead and jump into it, I haven't. It's mixed for me, man. Grew up in hip hop. We're childs of the '90s, like
DMC style.
exactly. You got the Run DMC inspired logo on your shirt, and our language and how we view the world through the lens of it, and then with hip hop being not just hip hop anymore, it's actually popular culture. It's kind of mixed because I don't I, I'm not one of those that say that there is a responsibility from hip hop simply because it's a bunch of guys for doing two things, trying to get money, number one, and number two, trying to express themselves. I would hope that as they grew as artists, they would know that that they have influence, and with that influence, we use their influence for positive and great reasons. But to say that they have a responsibility off top, you got an 18-year-old kid that's rapping, he's not thinking like that. I don't think that's a fair thing to put on that kid. But to the guys that are our age and have been in the game for a minute, I do think that they should use their powers for good, not evil, if you will. And as a father, I'm with you, Ben. Some of the stuff I can't stomach. I mean, my iPod is my phone is full of 5,000 songs strong, of which I probably listened to 5% of it, if that. And most of it is in hip hop because I'm about to have a daughter, and we know that about the objectification of women in hip hop. It comes with it, especially in recent years. It's part of it, beating and their objects, and we at one point succumbed to that kind of mindset, in college and in high school and all that kind of deal. But when you get older, you know better, you do better. And I think about it like, I can't handle my daughter. I can't handle, look at the comments. I can't handle my daughter being talked about like that. Like I can't do it. It will not happen. I will not tolerate it in the home. I'm not gonna shelter them. I don't believe that they should be sheltered, but I think they should be exposed to it at a certain level and at a certain when they can handle it. But it's just about to be a father of a daughter, man. It leaves a very sour taste in my mouth at times, So it's hard, man. But it's hard to escape. I don't know how you escape hip hop and its influence now. I just don't know. I don't know how you do it. It's popular culture.
It is popular culture. It is mainstream. So the two highest selling albums so far of this is 2015. Number one is Drake. Number two is The Weeknd. This is how do you get this is mainstream. For me, it's a challenge, and I can only imagine having a daughter. It's a whole. There's stuff that I've listened to in the car with my son, and whose favorite song has just changed from "Let It Go" from Frozen to "I Can't Feel My Face" by The Weeknd. Like that is his. He will jam that solo by himself, and there are there are things that we listen to sometimes in the car together. I usually don't filter that much. And a lot of that just comes from the fact that, you know, we grew up, my brother and I grew up with a single father in a single father household as well.
Yeah.
And he didn't really filter anything from us. You know, it was just whatever he was cooking, whatever he was watching, whatever he was listening to is what we were exposed to. Yeah. And I have a similar relationship to my son, but I can't play every 2 Chainz track in front of my son. You can't do it. They say nigga one too many times in a row.
Yeah.
You know, and they pick up on what's repeated.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And I can even imagine how much more that would be filtered if I had a daughter. Yeah. And it truly is through the objectification. Yeah. Of women. Like, I get it. Hip hop, there's a lot in hip hop that appeals to the lowest common denominator. Yeah. You know, sex, money, food, drugs, bitches. You know, I get it. But I think it has more of an impact what he sees his father championing. Okay. You know, so when I'm turned up in the front seat, that gets him turned up in the back seat. You know, yeah. So at least on my playlist, I try to make sure that I'm turned up as much on Coldplay as I am on Kanye West. Yeah. You know, so it's different, you know, and I think about it too. So then we got like Kendrick Lamar, right? Yeah. Who's out right now. And it was funny because Kendrick was talking about listening to music when he was growing up and riding in the backseat of his parents' car. And for him, at least, he says he remembers listening to, you know, a lot of that 90s hip hop and, you know, the NWA and Dr. Dre coming up. And he said it clicked to him really fast that these were just men telling their stories, like them keeping a diary. Yeah. And then so once that clicked for him, like there's really nothing else to explain other than that these are just happens to be these people's stories. There are millions of other stories out there to be told, you know, and then from that point, I don't think he needed a filter after that, you know. So it's a struggle for me, you know. I don't struggle with it as deeply as I struggle with some other issues. I mean, because we play hip hop a lot in the household, you know, it's a form of expression, but yeah, there's definitely things that I would not play if I had a daughter instead of a son.
Man, I don't think there's anything I could play if I had a daughter. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you, man, because I'm sitting in my head thinking right now, because I was, I had, so before we were going to the gym one Saturday, and I got this mix of all the you remember the Lil Jon era? It was about, I'm in the club, we were 18, 19, 20 when that came out, and we was just running around. So I'm playing that, and I'm just getting hype, nuck if you buck. And I'm like, I'm looking at my son, he's going back and forth. And I'm like, oh man, wait a minute, time out. I can't have this young man getting out the car, slapping his fist together. Because that defeats the purpose of me telling him not to look like run around look like a fool. Well, it's a I try not to, I filter the language with him more than I do the music. I think that's kind of where I've kind of made myself, I guess, comfortable, because I'd rather we get exposed together to the music than he goes off and gets exposed with a misunderstanding of what it is and how it can benefit, how it has and will continue to benefit society, and what the differences are between hip hop. Because, me and Quay, we'll go back and forth and get into some pretty deep conversations as far as the roles that different rappers play in kind of the hip hop game. You've got your Kendrick Lamar and your J. Cole's, and then you've got, then you have your 2 Chainz and your Future, and you have those guys that are, obviously more, club related, but we have an appreciation and an understanding of when we listen to a 2 Chainz songs, it's more or less, okay, yeah, cool, I'm getting hype, whatever, turn up, whatever words you want to use. But when I listen to J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar, or if I listen to Common, then I'm probably digesting the information a little more, because it's something that I can benefit from, and it's a story that has some substance to it versus it just being a song, for music and creative purposes, right?
Right. And let's not forget that bad music is just bad music at the end of the day. So when the Whip and Nene song comes on, I change it every time. Just because it's just terrible. I just don't want him thinking that that's good music. It's just
That's funny. That's good. I get you on the bad music point. I agree. If it's just terrible, it is what it is. It's just terrible. I think that when it comes to the filtering of it, man, I mean, obviously it has to do with parenting styles and upbringing and all of that kind of deal. But to me, it's I look at it. I'm looking at it in the lens of same thing with television. You look at someone like I'm a gladiator. Like, I love Scandal. It is what it is. I love the show. Right. I cannot wait till next Thursday. I'm excited. I have the DVR ready already, but it's on ABC. And if you watch the show, I don't think any kid should see it whatsoever, because it is now become almost like parts of it have now almost become like Cinemax when we were kids. And so I look at it through that lens. Like, I don't think a child is ready. I don't want my daughter to be exposed to that kind of, because again, she's being objectified again. I don't think that they're ready to digest that kind of information. Again, I don't want them to present, like you were saying, Kuwait, earlier. I don't want to present them that bit of information or that part of the world too early. You know what I'm saying? Too early. They're gonna see it. I don't want to hide it from them whatsoever, but I want it to be at the right time.
And it's different for every child, because they all progress at a different rate.
It is.
When it comes to anything that's motor skills or gymnastics, my kid is a genius. I mean, toes to bar, back flipping, or acro. He picked it up like it was second nature. But when it came to other areas, we had to push a little harder to make him progress. But then I look at Isaac. His son literally can read a dissertation to you if he needs to. He can probably write one. I'm not gonna lie. The kid is. I mean, I hear him talking in the background. I'm like, man, this kid is. I don't know if I want full conversations like that with a 3-year-old. But it just kind of shows you our kids are gonna progress differently, and we kind of have to kind of use our best judgment on what we kind of allow them to do. But I think it all goes, for me personally, goes back to kind of, I grew up with a single mom. So for her, she always wanted to make sure if I was going to experience something that she was able to monitor that experience and also have a conversation around it, right? So when we were younger, we were 16, 17, she saw us getting that itch to get some Thunderbird or some Mad Dog 2020. So she was like, I'm not going to let you guys sneak out the house, pay some stranger to give you guys liquor, and you go driving drunk somewhere. So she was like, okay, we'll get you some Zimas or something, whatever. You can try it out, sit around the house, and then we'll talk about what this is, what is alcohol. Because, you're about to go to college. She wanted to make sure that we were prepared, but she controlled the introduction of what it was. So I think that's kind of how that's my philosophy. Everything that I want him to be introduced into everything, but I want to be able to control it so we can talk about it, so he has an understanding and a grasp and an appreciation for whatever it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that you have to, from what I'm thinking, and you guys as seasoned fathers, please jump in. It's just what I propose to do, but you have to kind of got to play the hand you're dealt from a societal standpoint, in terms of, like, this is the world we live in. Like, we're gonna do our part to create our home in the environment of our home that we want it to be. But when they leave these 4 walls, where they live. And once they start venturing out into the world, they're going to see certain things, and you got to kind of adjust when they're at school for 7-8 hours or 6 or 7 hours a day. And so I'm thinking that, you know, you have your core values and you have your core standards, that the rules that you set as the man, and you know, with your wife, mom and dad in the home at the crib. But when they leave, you know, they're going to come back with a new set of information that you didn't really think that they're supposed to have yet, you know, or that you didn't teach them. So, okay, now I got to weave this into the curriculum, if you will, of the home, and figure out how to make it work. And so, you know, with the whole hip hop thing, man, they're gonna hear it. They're gonna go to games. They're gonna go to college. They're gonna go to birthday parties. They're gonna go to people's houses. They're gonna be in other folks' cars. They're gonna be with Uncle so and so, Aunt so and so, and you know, and they're gonna hear stuff that you probably have never played. Like they're probably gonna come home, Quaid, and doing the latest dance. And you're gonna be like, "What in God's name is that? Like, why?" I hate that song, but you know, but they got from Aunt such and such, you know. Because she doing it at the house with their cousin, you know what I mean? And
what's funny is that's when all of a sudden
out,
you're gonna look at yourself and be like, "I'm that dad. I'm that dad." And now looking at my child, listening to whatever he thinks is cool, like, no, that is the worst thing I ever heard. What on earth are you listening to? You know, today I was sitting here, and we have so I'm in Las Vegas, and the UNLV cheerleaders, they work out at my CrossFit gym. And they like to listen to stuff that I really don't listen to. So they want to listen to, like, you know, the latest Chris Brown, all that kind of stuff. And I'm listening to it. And there's a song where Chris Brown has redone Marvin Gaye, I think. And out loud, I catch myself saying, who would remix a Marvin Gaye song? This is the worst thing I ever heard. And I had a bunch of 18-year-olds turn around and look at me with this stank face like, really? This is what it is right now. I was like, oh, I'm old.
Yeah, like, who let this old dude in the gym right now? Like, right. Like, this is best work in years, dude. Hating on Chris.
Oh. You know, it's definitely there, man. But I think you guys made some good points that I can try to, you know, I think, you know, like Quay said, you know, filtering, you know, when and how, and not being too much of a filter that you protect them. And then kind of Kaylin, she talked about as far as, you know, as you introduce them to them, is make sure that, you know, that you're aware of what's going on, and that you can be, you know, that they're comfortable and they're talking to you about what it is. So you're not completely blindsided, but you will be prepared, because you will be blindsided on some level of hip hop as it changes and our kids get older. So another thing I kind of want to touch on is recently there was a YouTube video of a dad who, his son did well in school, I think, something along those lines. And he was like, hey, you can go to the store, pick out whatever toy you want. Now, mind you, he has a son. Like, I think I mentioned that a second ago. And his son has, you know, the normal superhero toys and armies and G.I. Joes and trucks. But this time, his kid picks out a Little Mermaid doll. And apparently there was some uproar behind it. And so he does a video, and he's like, yeah, so my kid picked out a mermaid doll. What's the big deal? And some dads just went left. I mean, the amount of issues they have with the fact that this kid picked out a doll that's, you know, in their eyes just for girls is completely wrong. And you're raising them to turn into, you know, I'm not going to use the language they were using, but they just had like a serious issue. So my question is, when it comes to toys, and it might sound silly, but apparently this is a big issue when it comes to dads. When it comes to toys, should gender be an issue? Or should you just let your kids pick what they pick and just deal with it?
See, man, this is the stuff I'm talking about. This is why I'm going to do dad. I have never thought about that, like, at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it's one of the new hot parenting issues right now. You know, Target just got rid of their gender sections for the first year for their Halloween costumes. So there's no girl costumes, no boy costumes anymore, you know, as far as Target's concerned. But yeah, I don't care. On my side, I don't care. It's so play is just the child word for experimentation, right? or explore, right?
Right.
And that's really all they're doing. So it's much more a reflection of yourself when you're like, yo, my son can't play with this, or my daughter has to play with these set of gender norm toys, and maybe that's a part of the progression that's happening today, but man, it's really a non-issue in my book. And luckily those other parents aren't raising my kids, but that will always be one of those divides that's kind of happening in this country. So just today it happened, I think my wife periscoped about this a little earlier. So my wife was out at the store with our son. So just her, my son, and he's in the shopping cart, and this woman comes by. And she's like, oh, she mentioned something to the fact that, like, oh, what a lovely daughter or lovely girl or something like that. My wife was on the phone at the time, but she didn't have to say anything because my son ended up checking her. It was like, yo, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy.
Yeah.
And then she just was kind of taken aback. She stopped. She didn't know what to say. She wasn't expecting him to be so clear and concise in his correction of her statement. And then so what's crazy is she had to say something else. I just don't think she liked the fact that she just got kind of checked by this little minority child, right? By this 3-year-old. She was a white woman, middle-aged white woman. And then so she comes up to him, and he has on little yellow flip-flops.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, well, do you have like any sisters or brothers or girl cousins or anything like that? And he's like, yeah, we have a girl. He says, yes, he has a girl cousin. She's like, oh, well, next time you see her, you give her these sandals because these sandals are for girls.
That's right there, man.
See, I would have lost it, man. I at that point, right, Quay, I would have been the big black guy.
What?
I can't.
Why is that interaction even necessary?
It's a child, and
it's a child. It's a 3-year-old child.
Because I know your wife, she got the lesser of the two evils. Good respect, because I'm pretty sure Amber would have been in that conversation.
No, it was Amber. Amber was there, but Amber was on the phone. I was not there. Amber told me about it after I got home.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. If Amber would have been able to kind of respond right back, I don't know if you'd be available for the chat tonight. That's all I'm saying. I just
Yeah, so I mean, it's sad that that's even happening, but there's a whole subset of Americans or people that believe that that's at the core of what's wrong with the country in the first place, is that we're getting away from some of these gender norms and gender roles. We know what a lot of these people look like in the first place, but or how they think in the first place about a lot of different issues. But yeah, it's just sad that at 3 years old, my son's already out there getting told that his yellow flip-flops are not gender appropriate. Like, what kind of crazy conversation is that? It's ridiculous.
What's interesting to me is why do you care? Like, as an adult, if you see a child playing with toys, why or yellow flip-flops, why is that the first thought that you're thinking about? And two, why do you care? Like, does it negatively affect your life? Does it make things harder for you? Does it increase your taxes? Does it hurt you?
No. I think that they care because, like I said, I think they really believe that this is the slippery slope of what's going to be the end of our country.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's wrong with our society.
Yeah.
This is another indication of our whole country going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
So in their minds, that they actually believe that they're doing their part of good. Like, I've done my part for the day. I said my piece. I did not remain quiet in a crazy world.
Yeah.
And your crazy world's dying off, actually,
quickly. It dying off really quickly. So I shared the video on my timeline, and I had a guy jump on board, and he was like, "Oh, it was a black guy, and he didn't have kids." So the first thing I asked him, I was like, "You got kids?" No, but I got a godson. You don't have kids, so you got a godson. I appreciate that. Keep holding on, and I respect him as a man. He's a good guy. We're still friends. But first thing he went into is that whole thing about these gender norms and how that society is trying to teach our kids to not to conform and all this whole conspiracy theory thing. And so I started going down my story. I was like, well, I grew up South Central LA and then moved out to Texas, single parent home. So technically, by society standards, I should be in jail right now. But here I am, 6'1", 250 pounds, large black man, married with 2 kids. And I had an easy bake oven growing up as a kid. I used to murder them cakes. You know what I'm saying? And so I throw that his way, and he was like, "Oh, well," he kind of gave me the spill of, "Well, you must be one of the exceptions to the rule." No, now you're just mad because you realize it really doesn't matter what the kid plays with at all, And at the end of the day, once it's kind of what I told him kind of offline. Once you become a parent, to me, for my personal opinion, especially as a father, your job is to love your child regardless on what decisions they make. If my son walks in one day at the age of whatever and he's got purple hair and whatever, I'm like, all right, cool, do your thing, just understand. Some people just, you might have to put a hat on every now and then if you don't feel like explaining yourself to everybody all the time. But do your thing. I'm still going to love you regardless, It is what it is. I mean, there's nothing my son can do unless he endangers or harms other people that's going to make me turn my back on him. And when I say nothing, literally there's nothing he can do. And I think that's the type of love that a father has for their child.
Yeah.
And these dads that are out there that are trying to diss this guy and that are just, really kind of throwing, just spewing hate at him. I'm like, man, like, what are you going to do if one day your son pulls up in his Ford F-150 and your son has a boyfriend? And then what you going to do? Oh, but he had G.I. Joe's his whole life, but now you don't know how to handle the situation. And it concerns me that people just kind of have that hate for this guy because his son went and got a doll.
And that's the thing. As if action figures aren't dolls.
Right, they are.
That's what it is. It's a doll. I had a million of them. I had every G.I. Joe and every Ninja Turtle known to man that Mattel could make, or whoever made them that they could make, And so it's a doll. The whole mermaid. Again, I've never thought about it, so I don't have too much any comments on it because I'm just it's just not what. Now I have something else to think about now. As I go down this fatherhood road, but just from briefly thinking about it while you guys were talking about it, to me, it's inconsequential. It is what it is. I like what you said, Quaid, about playing being another word for experiment and express and expression, or trying to figure out what it is they like. They don't know what they like until they don't know what they do or do not like until they try to like it. Exactly. And how old was he, Ben? How old was the kid?
He was kindergarten, first grade.
Exactly.
He's
exactly.
Not
I'm with you. I was just telling my wife this story the last night or the night before. I remember going to my kindergarten class, Miss Stites' class. I'll never forget. And you know how you guys know, well, or you will know, you go visit the school before the first day of class and talk to the teachers and all that kind of deal. And I remember my mom doing that, and it was kindergarten, so of course they had like a lot of toys and trinkets around the classroom. And while my mom was talking to my teacher, I went directly to the kitchen set. So I didn't pick up a ball. And I love sports. Even at that young age, I didn't pick up a ball. I didn't pick up a bat. I didn't pick up anything that a boy is supposed to pick up. I went directly to the kitchen because I was raised by my mother, and I always saw her at the kitchen. So I emulated what I saw.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At 5 years old. So to and I wound up playing college sports and all this kind of deal. And so it has no bearing at that age, at that experimental age.
Gotcha.
On down the line, man, like knock it off.
Yeah.
Let the kid be a kid and explore this world.
Yeah. That's what's going on, man. And this would be kind of the last little touch point, and what you just said kind of leads right into it. So the next kind of thing I want to touch on is, and for me, it's a little personal, but I've seen a lot of recently that people feel like that single moms can't raise men, right? That's like this all of a sudden, thing. And, you're seeing different memes put out there. You're seeing, people are looking at, society and how young men are acting out here nowadays. And it's all being attributed to the fact that, well, we've got so many single moms and single moms can't raise men. And, Kaylin, you said, the same reason for me. The reason why I had an easy bake oven, because I spent, a single mom. She worked 2 jobs while she was trying to, get her hustle on. So we spent all our time in the kitchen. So I like to cook and eat. It just is what it is. So what do you guys think about single moms raising men? Can it happen? Does it happen?
It does happen, and it can happen. I think that to get the full experience of manhood, a woman needs, or a woman would need or prefer some sort of man in their son's life. But it definitely can happen. She can instill the values.
Let me rephrase that. Let's just say single parent, because I think both ways things can happen, right? If you grow up, like Eisen can probably talk to this. If you grow up with just your dad, there's a certain way you're going to be raised. You grow up with just your mom, there's a certain way you're going to raise. So can a single parent raise a functional child? I guess would be a more appropriate question.
Right. It happens all the time.
So common nowadays. It's so common nowadays. They better.
They couldn't. I mean, imagine how more dysfunctional our world would be right now. I mean, shoot, what kind of household did the president come from?
Bingo. So why is it you think we have more of a stigma towards single moms raising boys than single dads raising girls? I mean, if you really think about it, when you see a single, if you look at how things happen in society and the conversations people really never talk about the single dads that are out there holding it down. I mean, I don't know if it's assumption. I don't know if it's just whatever, but it's just, it's just like, but the conversation always goes to single moms can't do it on their own and they can't raise men. And it's like, well, who's the one to say that a single dad can raise a woman? If that's your philosophy, if that's your way of thinking.
Yeah, it's a flawed way of thinking from Jump Street. But if we're talking sheer numbers, right? If you're talking sheer numbers, there's a lot more single mothers out there than there are single fathers, in the first place. Then a lot of this conversation around, it kind of circles around, there's a clear difference between what should be and what is, so yeah, the standard should be the same, but let's be honest, right? I mean, male privilege is a real thing, and our expectations for being fathers are set lower than what society puts on the woman for being a mother. Mom shaming and mom guilt is a much bigger issue than dad shaming. I mean, it is what it is, So I think just from being a mother, they're going to get the brunt of the criticism for saying, because there's no question, can a mother raise a daughter? Can a single mother raise a son into a man? And that's where a lot of that comes into play. But you get a father that comes in, you get a father that has like 2 single daughters or 2 daughters. He's a single father, he has 2 daughters, and he's out there. The man can almost do no wrong from Jump Street just because he's taken on this responsibility. He could be doing the whole thing wrong, but he's not going to be viewed in the same light just because he's a man.
and I totally agree with that, Quade. What I've often wondered was this thought of a man.
Right.
Where's the baseline? What is the norm? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Can you raise a man? Well, what is a man? I
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I have my own definition, but we put these norms on everything that I think that they need to be a bit more broad, because you know what is a man to our grandfather's
Yeah.
generation? It's totally different than what it is now, because they got out and worked with their hands and in
If
the
you ain't had no
field
time
and,
on your
put
hands,
in
you
18
had to
hour
start.
12-hour days, and you know what I, yeah, I'm not putting in 12-hour days in the field. I just ain't gonna do it.
But you
You know
still
what
a
I mean?
man.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm just not. So
Right.
I'm not a man if that's the case, you know. And so, these kinds of things I think have to be addressed. And when it comes to single moms, I think that's more than possible. Absolutely, it happens all the time, as we said earlier. I, I, would it be? Is it a lot easier if there is some sort of figure for the young man, for the child to aspire
Yeah.
to?
Definitely.
Absolutely, that he looks at and looks up to.
Right.
Absolutely, but it can be done. It's being done all the time, and to say, and even on the flip side, man, with the single dads, I have a friend who is a single dad right now. He's been a single dad for his child's whole life, and it wasn't by his choice. His mom passed away. Child's mom passed away, and so he might as well be the Adonis of all men in the state of Tennessee. Like you said, he can't do it. There's nothing he can do wrong. Nothing. The girl's hair could be a hot, funky, stinking mess because he can't do it. But because he's a single dad and he's trying. And
We
so we
don't.
don't give moms that same kind of love as well. You know, we don't. She's failing him, or she's failing that, or the boy, now the boy becomes the issue. She can't raise that boy, because
Yeah.
she's inept, and the boy's a problem. You know what I mean? But if it's just, like you said, if it's on the flip side with the man and the father and the daughter, you'll never hear that argument, man. And I think that it's a shame because we put these norms on. Okay, he can't. Can a woman raise a man? What is a man? Can a woman raise a functioning,
That's the
productive
better
member of
question.
society?
Yeah.
Is what I would
'Cause
like
I
to
think
know.
to become
And
a
that,
man,
and
that
that's right.
it's life's situations that you go through and how you handle them that shape you as your own individual man, right? Not the fact that you had one or two parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you handle what you go through turns you into the man that you're supposed to become. The parent's job is to, I think, help give you the right tools. So as you shape yourself into a positive, productive member of society. It just so happens to be a man. I think,
Right.
yeah, but
Right.
I think what
Have that
happens
Y
is
chromosome.
for single moms that nowadays this is how it looks from the outside in. Let me just be clear. It looks like from the outside in that for some single moms they become too close in essence because with their sons, and the relationship becomes that of one where their son almost, how can I say this without sounding, yeah, your
Like
baby boy,
Oedipus, like the
right? It's
story of
kind of like
Oedipus.
and I think it's
Yeah.
unintentional. Now for the women that do it intentionally, well, they're just screwed up, and it's what it is. I'm not gonna say that but I think for the most part, I think it just happens, and but it doesn't mean the mom's doing anything wrong or doing anything bad. It's just it happened. It's a psychological thing that clicks for some let's just say for single parents.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
You know that mother's love thing is hard, man, and they love on them so much, and they you know, I mean, we all have moms, and you know, we all crazy about I'm sure we're crazy about our mothers, and are still are crazy about our mothers, and you know, that mother's love thing is tough, man. It really is, and as a generalization, in I've seen it, you know, we've all seen it, and that's a good point. That's a good point, but I don't think it's,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm hard pressed to think that it's purposeful, that it's on purpose that they do that, you know. But when it happens, that's a whole nother set of issues where it's out of a line, you know. Then
And I think
that leads down to a
you
whole
know,
nother set.
I was raised like I said by a single mom, but then my mom was raised by both parents, and one parent was military. So my mom had the love of a mother, but then she also had the backhand of a dad. Right? There was a point in life where she was like, okay,
Right.
you taller than me now, so now you got to man up for certain situations. Period. Point blank. Like I will not coddle you going forward. And I think for her turning that switch, and I think with dads, we give our kids that slow doses throughout life and as they get older. But I think, for moms, from my perspective, it's just there's a point they just have to kind of just turn it on. Like, boom, it is what it is. Whether it's when they're 16 or 12, hey, look, you talk like that again, I'm gonna knock the wind out your chest. And that's what worked for me.
Right. I hear you, man. I the single mom thing is tough, but I think that to go back to your original question, I really do think that it is possible to successfully raise a productive member of society that has a Y chromosome if you're a single mom.
Agreed.
Right. Hey,
totally agreed.
Same here.
So look, fellas, thanks for letting me kind of take you down this rabbit hole we went down to kind of test out what I kind of want to do going forward. I appreciate your time. We got some good comments, some good feedback, and I'll definitely put a better agenda together next time so I don't go off on so many tangents. But I do appreciate your time and your input, and looking forward to do this with you again real soon.
No, yeah, man. Definitely, man. Thanks for the invite, and let's get some more of these on the calendar, man. Solve the world's problems through conversation, right?
Yeah. So we'll look at a week or two out from now, and everybody just come with something you saw that happened, in the news, and we'll kind of focus in on that. We'll kind of fill this fourth seat right here. It would be a good.
Yeah, I got somebody that you already know that you probably didn't even think about. I'll text it to you. No. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jamal, but Steve Payne, my old roommate.
Yeah.
He plays ball. He's out in L.A.
Yeah.
He'd be great because he's a father too. He got 3, so he's
man.
a stepfather too. So he brings another perspective.
Yeah, blended families. Yeah.
Right. He's a step. Blended, yep. He's a stepfather and a father of 2 of his own. So
cool. So let's
it's
reach out to him, and we'll do something a little more organized, a little more scheduled out, and we'll do this again.
Cool, man. Thanks for having us. Yeah, likewise.
Yeah,
all right, y'all do the same. Thanks for everybody for joining too.
Enjoy your
on
night.
The side. Appreciate all the comments.
All right.
For jumping in, and all the viewers we had, I appreciate you guys letting us take it was supposed to be 7 minutes, turned into about an hour of your time.
Cool.
All right.